What is up, good people? Welcome. We're back. Uh First of all, thank you guys for coming. This is like a long time in the making. I have been crazy busy. Craig's been chasing me around and we finally were able to do it, and we're getting back into the swing of things. Before we start, big congratulations to the happy couple, which is Craig and I, for coming back and doing the podcast. We had taken a long break, but we are here, and congratulations to us. We deserve it.
You got any rights to throw?
No.
No, all good. Yeah, because we are what's most important here.
Yes,
nothing else
yeah.
going on whatsoever. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody was waiting for that.
And so today we're going to break down the training camp. We're going to break down the depth chart. We're going to talk about special teams, offense, defense. We'll break down each position group, who we think might be, players on the bubble, practice squad stashes, maybe some hot takes on some 53-man guys who can maybe make the back end of the roster. And then, we'll go through offense, defense, and special teams. But first, I think what's on everybody's mind is the big man in Tampa Bay. Vita Vea has requested a trade. We heard earlier a day or two ago that he prefers a California team, which of course involves the Chargers.
Mhm.
And what could be better than a Vita Vea in the middle of this defense? So let's talk about how you feel about it, Craig, and then like what you're willing to kind of give up, if you are willing to give up anything for Vita Vea.
Man, listen, it's not an if, it's how much do you want? Within reason. The way I feel about this in general is I feel like this team should just go all in on being a trench squad on both sides of the line. Because basically when you're good on your offensive and defensive lines, it kind of covers up your warts at other positions that you might be weak at. So you want to cover up those warts. You can do that if you're strong at both. So we're talking about combination of, if you can retain all these guys, because I think it could just be draft picks that you do this with. But if you're talking about Tier Tart, Dalvin Tomlinson, Justin McBoyd, Jamari Caldwell, Nick Barrett, and Vita Vea as well, that's pretty dominant. That's a really, really solid rotation. Good luck running against it. It may not be the most formidable pass rush, but what you will have is strength up the middle, and you can probably push the pocket. Not probably. You can absolutely do that with Vita Vea. Easy for me to say. But when we're talking about what to give up for him, I don't think anything. I don't think, say, maybe a second or fifth at most, but you might be able to squeeze out a third and a sixth. And when you're talking that route, then you have to remember that the Chargers are slated to get a third-round comp pick back for Odafe Oweh, signing for $100 million stripper ones out in DC. So keep that in mind. But I think, again, that's within reason. And for a player like that can be impactful on the interior defensive line, that can set everything else up for you, whether it's against the run and, like I said before, collapsing the pocket on quarterbacks, because that's where they hate getting pressure the most, is up the middle. Then you don't have a player that caliber right now. You got a combination of very good guys that create collectively a good group. You add Vea to the mix, and that becomes great. And then your secondary benefits from that. Your pass rushes do as well. You keep your guys at the second level clean, so your linebackers play much better. And even if you don't have the exact combination you were expecting at the second level, it probably helps whoever is out there play above their heads. So in general, I'm all on board for this. If you guys couldn't tell, I think it's pretty obvious. And I don't think there's a reason why you don't get this done. The Chargers were already after some bigger name players or someone along the same lines that ended up in New England. I mean, not in New England, and Cincinnati. Won't even mention his name because it's not important anymore. But you can get someone along those lines that's a little bit older, of course, but can be just as impactful. So with that being said, let's get it done, Joe. He's known for making trades right before camp or going into camp. That's kind of his thing. Let's add another one to the belt and let's get the ball rolling.
I've seen a lot of discourse on like what Vita Vea's price tag should be. And to me, it doesn't matter to me. You could talk about like, if you're talking about like mortgaging the future and like multiple first round picks, obviously that's like, that just doesn't feel like in the realm of possibility, but there are people arguing between second round picks and third round picks. And at that point, I'm like, who cares? Because if you can't get Vita Vea because you're holding out on not giving up a second round pick, there isn't a player. And I know this draft is pretty good, at least, built to be pretty strong. There's not a player on this earth in that second round, wherever the Chargers are going to be picking, that's going to be better than Vita Vea, period. So it's always like that Family Guy meme where, there's the box in the boat and he's like, I'll take the mystery box. It could be anything. It could be a boat. Like, just take the boat. The boat is Vita Vea. I'm willing to give him the big contract. I'm willing to give up a second round pick and a fifth round pick if you want to, or sixth. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever it takes to get Vita Vea in the middle of this defense is whatever it is, I'm willing to give it up if I'm GM, if I'm Joe Ortiz. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Marcus Mosher who was saying that the Chargers have too many defensive tackles as it is, so that it doesn't make sense for Vita Vea. But I mean, we're talking about a group who, and I like Tier Tart's nice, and Dalvin Tomlinson was pretty good at a point. Like, it's hard to really tell what he's going to be in this new system. And then a Boygby and Jamari Caldwell was nice last year, but like then a Boygby, and then we're talking about rookies. And I mean, look, these are all kind of unknowns. There's no player better than Vita Vea. And if you find a way to fit a guy like Vita Vea into your defense, you have to go and do that. And if you have to pay him, go and pay him. He is worth it. He's 2 seasons removed from like a 7.5 sack season. And then he had like 5.5 and 6.5. Like, he's still getting after the quarterback. So while he's one of the best run defenders in the NFL, he still gets after the quarterback, and he is a strong ass man. Pair him with T.R. Tart, and I just like, the sky is the limit for this defense, because you've already got pretty steady pass rushers off the edge. But if you can start building from the inside out, which is a thing we've talked about for 100 years on this podcast, if you can build from the inside out with a guy like Vita Vea, you absolutely do it. And I will not fight over a second, a third. If you need to talk me down from a first, I'm willing to give up the farm for Vita Vea. Give me Vita Vea. There's no deal not worth, at least in this realm of possibility, not going after a guy like Vea. He would absolutely catapult this defense.
And I mean, I get it. Over 30 years old, but keeping in mind, the dude still started all 17 games last year. Like you mentioned, as far as like the production, 4.5, 5 sacks, still had 34 tackles, I believe. He was still holding down the interior of that Tampa Bay Buccaneers line at over 30 years old. And he's got a lot left. Again, keep in mind, the type of game that he plays is power-based. You don't just suddenly become not strong anymore. If anything, you get old man strength. So, I mean, he's already had that and had it in spades for years. So, like Garrett said, man, I guess we're just Jezebels, because give it up. Like, you can have it. We're easy. Trust me. You can have whatever you want.
And they've got the money to pay him. So,
Why are you holding on to all that bread unless you're planning on using at least some of it? I know you want to keep some in the tuck. You got some, and we'll talk about this, extensions and stuff that we, have to negotiate, but I'm sure they're working on that. But there's still more than enough to pay a player like that. And you're talking about what his tab would be this year. I think like 14 mil that would be on the books that you'd have to pick up this year, something along those lines. So you can absolutely make it work. And if you're a team that's serious about making a push now and playing at home in a potential Super Bowl, when you got the team across the way doing things like adding Myles Garrett, and apparently saw some crap about Vita Vea being like the betting favorite to land there too. Hell no, you can't let that happen. Like,
and Aaron Donald
and Aaron Donald just suddenly decides to come out of retirement. Just go ahead and cancel the season. Like, don't even show up for the games. Don't let that happen. You can make the Vea thing happen. You go do it. I'm sure Tampa hates the fact that they would have to also play him later this year, but that's y'all's fault. Y'all don't have to pay the man. Let him go.
I don't know if they get Vita Vea, they're going into that like Nnamdi Asomugha territory that the Eagles did, where they were like trying to build the dream team and then they just tanked it. Yeah. Well, at least you got to hope that's the case, because if that all pans out, man, like sim the season.
Yeah,
it's 2027. Here we come.
And the Lombardi over, draft. Yeah, move forward. Great draft next year anyway. Let's get to talking about it now.
It'll be worth it. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's so just go get Vita Vea. There's no question. And those of you that are fighting over a second or a third or a fourth or whatever, like, I wouldn't give up a second. Yeah, you would, and you should.
I mean, look,
stop the argument.
And I'm not saying that these are the exact same guys. I know I said I wouldn't mention his name, but we wanted Dexter Lawrence, right? Yeah. Granted, Dexter's younger at this point, probably more productive potentially. I mean, he's coming off, not the greatest season. One thing Vea has been is consistent. And again, as he's gotten older, he hasn't necessarily had a significant drop off. If you want a player like Dexter Lawrence, you can still get a Vea and not have to give up as much. This is another Joe Ortiz special that falls right in your lap. Just make it happen.
If you are so adamant about stopping the run, go get Vita Vea. If not, then we know you're not serious.
Yeah,
it's that black and white.
Don't let him go to the Rams, dog. I don't care. Just not the Rams, please.
All right, so let's go ahead and start going over this depth chart. I think it's a good time to move on. We got special teams first, and we'll go to offense, and we'll go to defense. Special teams we always fly through because it's pretty easy. I'll just I'll list the players, and we'll kind of go back and forth, Craig. First is the punter and kicker. There's no competition here. It's J.K. Scott. It's Cameron Dicker. I am very concerned or wary of J.K. Scott with just how hot and cold he's been throughout his stint with the Chargers. He deserved more than a lot of players on this roster, at least some kind of competition. Not saying that he, like you're looking for a brand new punter, but just somebody to push him a little bit. And I said it during the draft. Like we had joked on our mock draft that they were going to take a punter. Like we were like, let's just take a punter because we got to get one in the 6th and 7th round. And we kept joking about it, but like they needed somebody to come in here and do something. And then the UDFA class was kind of rolling out. And then all of a sudden, like they finished and there's no punters. And I could not believe that they didn't bring a single soul in to compete with J.K. Scott. Dicker deserves to keep his job. He's been lights out. J.K. Scott is a man that deserves a little heat underneath him.
The dude's good until you need him to be. And that's kind of like the running theme here for the last few years. The game gets tight, and the last thing you need is a punt to be shanked or a snap to be bobbled. And it almost always happens like clockwork. As soon as there's a little bit of pressure, he folds. And dude, it's your only job. It's literally the only thing you have to do. And I would argue, I'm not a professional football player. Don't pretend to be, never played NFL football. But I would imagine that being a punter has a little less stress than being a place kicker. So if Dicker can nail 50-plus yarders, to maintain leads or extend them, if we're talking about you just helping to create decent field position with additional time and space to get a ball off without having to worry about anyone holding it, you just got to catch it and get it off, then I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt. Again, look, it's the one thing that you have to do. All we ask is that you just do it consistently all the time. You don't even have to be near the top of the league. We understand like hang time is this thing, but he doesn't even do that all that well in the crunch time. So yeah, he absolutely should have someone in to give him competition, but for some reason they love this dude. I don't get it. Maybe it's the hair. Is it a California thing? This is a Texas dude talking, so I don't know, but he's got like that whole sunshine thing from Remember the Titans going on, unless he cut his hair. Whatever, doesn't matter. Just get somebody in there to give the dude some sort of competition so that he needs to feel the heat at least a little bit. And if someone outperforms him, which I don't think is all that difficult, to be completely honest with you, then give them the right to have the opportunity to take over. But the fact that he gets to sit pretty every all season and feel like, there's no threat to his job whatsoever, then what's the motivation to get better?
Yeah, I think Cameron Dicker during the World Cup was talking about his schedule and how relaxed it was as an NFL kicker during training camp and during practices, and how you make a couple kicks and then you just kind of walk off and stretch a little bit and kill some time and then kick some more. Like they've got it pretty easy, but in terms of NFL standards, but I don't get the thinking behind and the rationale behind not having some kind of competition for J.K. Scott. And, maybe that comes later. I don't know, but it just feels like too late because we're in training camp already.
Yeah. I mean, he knows he's the guy. And at this point, to introduce anything feels like it would almost be to kind of play a mind game with him, because someone will have to literally come in and blow the team socks off and they would have to trust that that's something that would consistently carry over into the season at this point. You needed to bring someone in sooner and make it a very, very real competition, because now, like, it just feels like you're doing it for ceremony if you were to go about it now.
Yeah, and when they released Ben Cleveland, I was thinking like, oh, they're going to add a punter, but that wasn't the case. It was a long snapper. So of all the guys who deserves competition, Josh Harris gets it with the newly signed Peter Bowden.
Yeah. Harris was the one guy who's proven the consistency, so much so that when he was out, we were all begging.
gosh.
Never seen a franchise beg for a long snapper and long for one as much as we did while he was out. But
yeah,
he's proven his worth already. And yeah, let's just bring somebody else in to take up a spot or create competition, because it's not competition. You know who the long snapper is going to be. This feels like one of those coaches' pets things where, like, maybe he's somebody's favorite, and who knows. But I don't think there's any rational reason as to why you wouldn't bring in competition, unless you're worried that the dude's ego is so fragile that bringing in competition will make him fold. If it does, then hell yeah, that means you need to get rid of him. It just proves the point. But yeah, whatever. I guess they have their reasons.
It was pretty hairy those 3 weeks he was out. That was rough.
Touch and go.
Yeah. So, you hope it's Scott, Dicker, and Harris. That's I got no other take other than that. Mm-hmm. So let's move on. Quarterback. There's 3 of them, Craig. Justin Herbert, Trey Lance, and your man DJ.
My man.
My man DJ.
Yeah, no.
So he's your DJ. Go DJ.
He's your DJ. DJ could go. Well, you know what? Actually, I don't know, because what we saw of Trey Lance when he was actually in, specifically against the Denver Broncos, not so pretty. I understand that he gives you the mobility that they want in the offense, but I don't necessarily think if DJ were to make it over him, it would be that big of a drop off at this point from what we've seen. He does have familiarity with the system, though. Not DJ, talking about Trey Lance, because he's played in it under the specific offensive coordinator when he was a 49er. So it feels like he gets the leg up there as well. Mike McDaniel is comfortable with him. So it is what it is. You know who your 1-2 are going to be. DJ is going to be your third QB if they carry 3, if he's like the emergency QB, like all that good stuff. So that's the order it's going to be in. I am, at this point, I will say this. I feel like we were kind of excited to see what Trey Lance could offer, because he played on and off kind of okay in the preseason last year. Mm-hmm. I am curious to see what his second stint in this offense would look like. So again, it feels like he might have a little bit of an advantage there, but I'll believe it when I see it. Otherwise, as far as just like natural talent, like arm talent, and pure quarterback play, DJ is probably the better of the two, just from a natural QB standpoint. But Trey Lance offers you the better all-around game. But why are we talking about this? It's about Justin Herbert and nothing else. Madison, give that man whatever he needs when he gets home. Take care of our boy. Just make sure he shows up to the stadium on time and is in one piece. That's all we care about. Other than that, these other guys, it'll be fun to watch during the preseason. Hopefully they never sniff the field, unless we're talking about blowouts late into the season, sitting Herbert because we're in the playoffs and everything's sewed up. So great. They're there.
Yeah. I hope everything works out for the newly engaged QB1. I'm hoping. Quick turnaround, man. They met like less than a year ago, and here we are.
Those Hollywood relationships they're different, man.
Dude. Yeah. And then they had to release a joint engagement announcement. Like, I don't know, man.
I ain't gonna lie. When I saw that on social media, I thought that was a joke. I thought people were doing, because I haven't been on Twitter. Like, I took a little Twitter sabbatical during the summer too, so I wasn't paying attention to a ton of stuff. And when I saw that popped up the other day, I'm like, okay, this is why I left. But no, it's real. It is a real thing. So again, congrats to them and best wishes. And like I said, Miss Beer, just soon to be Mrs. Herbert, just take care of our boy. That's all I ask. Don't break his heart. We'll find you. We will find you.
She's made a career under Beer. I don't know that she's going to change that last name, but still, we'll see.
Madison Beer Herbert. All right.
Yeah. So we know Herbert's QB1. Trey Lance feels like today probably cemented as QB2 at the moment. Feels like the question is if DJ can make enough of a case for them to keep three quarterbacks, because they've done it before. They didn't last season, but they have done it before. They kept Trey Lance and they kept Herbert, and then they kept DJ on their initial practice squad. It's probably the route they'll go again, unless DJ, plays over his head in the preseason. But yeah, they were a lot closer. DJ and Trey Lance were a lot closer than I thought they would be last preseason. So I'm curious how that battle goes. And, if DJ overtakes him, then so be it. But I just want a capable quarterback in the preseason, so it's not just unwatchable football and Trey Lance just running the ball like we used to see Easton Stick do all the time. So yeah, it's pretty clear. Herbert and Trey Lance probably has the inside track on that QB2, and then whether DJ deserves that third quarterback roster spot is the next
he
question.
Seems like he's off to a good start. I think he threw like a 40-yard TD to DeLavon Campbell today in the first day of camp. So DJ's making strides already, apparently.
Yep.
In shorts and t-shirts.
Yep. In their underwear, as Jamie used to love to say.
Yeah. Oh, they're wearing the jerseys and stuff. I forgot. So yeah, they're just no pads, but they're in like full uniform other than the pads, which is interesting.
I know, it's always funny seeing them. All right, so then let's go. Fullback is pretty easy. We know Alec Ingold, and then there's 6 running backs, which is Amarian Hampton, Keaton Mitchell, Kamani Vidal, Jarrett Patterson, and then the UDFA's Amar Johnson and Gregory Desaurier, if I'm saying that right. If my occasion's right,
we can go with that. I don't think it's going to matter, but look, man, just cut it off after Patterson.
Okay, well, talk honestly, to me about it.
Yeah, ultimately, we know who the top 3 are going to be. With Keaton kind of rounding out that top 3, he's going to be a change of pace back. We know Amarian Hampton's going to be your bell cow. Kimani's going to get mixed in there. There's going to be a bit of a rotation because they're going to be ultimately a team that still wants to run the ball. This is like a staple of Mike McDaniel offense. It's one of the reasons he and Harbaugh kind of see eye to eye, because they have similar philosophies. They just go about it differently. So I could absolutely see all of those guys getting reps. Jarrett Patterson, he's like a gnat. He won't go away. No disrespect. I'm just saying he's always around. But when he plays, he produces. So they trust him. Anything beyond that, you're talking, again, practice squad guys, and even Patterson is probably going to be somebody that's on the periphery of the roster that, they call up only when necessary. But in general, we know what that running back room is going to look like. We know that McDaniel stood on the table to get Keaton Mitchell, created wanted posters, the whole 9. Amarian Hampton was ascending. He was really on his way until he got injured in that Commanders game, which I was at. Pisses me off. So Kamani did his thing kind of in spot duty. He was like on and off, his even weeks are good, odd weeks not so much, just like this every other game thing. But he proved himself to be someone who can be a more than serviceable back. Vidal was someone that I was pretty high on in his draft class. He was one of my sleeper running backs that I was really happy the Chargers were able to get. Even when it seemed like he wasn't going to have an opportunity to stay with the team, they released him, brought him back. He showed and proved that he can get the job done, with consistent work. So your top 3 backs are who they are. I think it's pretty clear. And the usage is what I'm interested in, because Keaton Mitchell feels like he's going to be multi-purpose, special teams, and a change of pace guy. So I'm just curious to see how that rotation works out.
Yeah. And then Alec Ingold.
Yeah. Scott Matlock is full-time DT now, so it's just Ingold, I believe. And with that being said, just get ready to see that man in motion a ton, because that's what McDaniel did with him. Almost, I forget how many, I think it was like 60 to 70% of the plays there was pre-snap motion, and Ingold was a big part of that in Miami. I expect him to follow suit with the Chargers in this new offense as well. And he's someone who can do a little bit of everything. So you got a Swiss Army knife at fullback, something the Chargers have lacked for a while. And just there's nothing wrong. The more weapons, the better. Someone who can contribute on short yardage, again, can be a lead back, but can also get out in passing routes and make things a little difficult for the linebackers at the second level. And, maybe sneak a touchdown to Ingold in, on some sort of wheel route or something like that that's unexpected inside the 10, where a linebacker falls asleep and you can get him beyond them at the second level and nobody and no corners or safeties are paying attention to him, or get him out in the flat, quick dump off for easy 5-6 yards to get a first down on third and shortish. Again, someone you can use in the red zone as well. So there's no real competition for Ingold. And I think he's another one of those players that can pay huge dividends, even if it doesn't show up highly on the stat sheet. He's going to be a huge part of the offense.
Yeah, I mean, he was signed to help the run game. I mean, they have a clear plan in making Hampton the featured back, and they want to get him as many weapons as they can to help Hampton succeed. And one of that is Ingold. We'll talk about the offensive line a little bit, but contributing to the run game and the offense as a whole, I think initially it's kind of a two birds. You get a true fullback in Alec Ingold, who, like you mentioned, is very familiar in the system. And then you end the Scott Matlock experiment at fullback. So
thank you.
It all is all good. And so hopefully Ingold will help to contribute to Hampton's second year success. So we know that he will be primed for the lion's share of the backfield with an improved and healthy offensive line and Mike McDaniel behind the wheel, obviously. So you got Hampton as RB1 entering camp. Keaton Mitchell is a player that I feel like when we all saw the signing, it kind of all made our eyes light up. Like a couple of us were like, "Ooh, Keaton Mitchell would be fun," kind of. But no, there wasn't like a consensus like, "Oh my gosh, if Keaton Mitchell was on this offense?" But then once they signed him, it felt like all the bells started going off for everybody, because just the speed and versatility of a weapon out of the backfield that Mike McDaniel has always helped elevate in his career as an offensive coordinator. I mean, Keaton Mitchell is primed to have a pretty big role in this offense. I mean, Hampton's going to be getting targets in the passing game, and I'm sure Mitchell will get a lot of carries as well, but Mitchell's going to help create a lot more mismatches and add some gas to this offense. And then also he's going to help with kick returner duty, which is a nice sigh of relief compared to that kind of ragtag group they were rolling out in preseason, and where we got Naheem Hines like fumbling every other return. It was just like crazy. So, that also helps things out. Kamani was kind of our every other week wonder as we were talking throughout the season. We'd have a great game and then have a step back, and then another great game and another big step back. And it looks like he's earned kind of that RB3 spot entering camp. He's coming off a career year. Hope that he becomes more consistent, especially if, they're going to have to lean at him at all this season. He's third season in the league now. So this is where you start to kind of make your impression on the league. And hopefully he can kind of ride that wave of success from last season. I don't think he's going to get as much opportunities as he did last year. Well, hopefully not, because everybody stays healthy. But hopefully he kind of makes those reps count in camp and then heading into the season. Jarrett Patterson, you mentioned, I mean, like, there were so many injuries to this group that Patterson got some run last year and did better than most expected. And we saw some flashes. And, it feels like he's more of a practice squad stash at this point heading into camp. But, is going to be a player that's going to need to make some noise to, really get on that practice squad. And if he wants to make the 53 at all. Watched Amar Johnson was originally a UDFA out of South Dakota State with the Packers before he signed with the Chargers. When he played in those 2 games with the Chargers last year, it was fine. It was like 2 carries for 8 yards or something. It was like nothing. He was fine coming out of college. He did enough to earn a spot late, so he might be kind of a practice squad stash as well with Jarrett Patterson. And then Gregory, the guy that we can't pronounce his last name of, De Rosers or whatever his last name is, and we'll butcher it. It's okay. Tough runner out of Memphis. Doesn't really have a ton of gas. Kind of a one cut and go type runner. Showed some pretty good hands. Has some return experience, so maybe we'll see some of that in camp. And I don't know where he fits though, because Amar Johnson and Jarrett Patterson have experience in the system with his team. They've had NFL snaps, and they're probably not even going to make the 53. So they're probably more practice squad stashes. And then, I don't think they carry 3 running backs at that point. So unless he blows the top off of some preseason game, and he's got to, and they got to make a move there, I just don't see him making the roster. So it's a pretty good bet that you see Amar Johnson and Jarrett Patterson on the practice squad.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet. Again, we know who the guys at the top are, and I think one of the things that maybe levels the playing field is, yeah, having experience with the team is one thing. It is a new system. So with that being said, the guys at the bottom of the depth chart are really going to have to battle it out, because maybe someone's a better fit in the wide zone scheme as opposed to what they were in a power scheme. So yeah, either way, we're splitting hairs at this point. So again, we know who the top guys are. I don't think there's much argument about it. I'm curious to see how Vidal fits into a rotation, because I could definitely see him being a guy who spells Hampton. I don't see them being I don't see them splitting carries per se. And Keaton feels like, I'm not even going to call it a gadget player. He's more of a change of pace guy, someone that they can get out in the routes. I mean, Hampton's already proven that he can be a very good receiver as well. So the splits, I think, are going to vary by game plan, depending on what the defense looks like. They're probably going to utilize each based on whatever their skill set is best, which best fits against that opponent that week. So you might get more Vidal than Keaton some weeks, and then vice versa. Hampton's going to be a constant, though.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, he's the workhorse. Okay. So from running backs to tight ends, they carrying 6 in camp. It's David Njoku, which still feels like a dream. Even when you see him in the jersey, it was just like, man, I mean, how long have we been ready for David Njoku on this roster? And here he is. David Njoku, Aronde Gaston, Charlie Kolar, Evan Svoboda, Jaron Bradley, and Johnny Pascuzzi. I'm going to mispronounce a lot of names today. Just get over it. I'll go ahead and start. So the trio, we know Njoku, Gaston, and Kolar are going to be kind of a nice balance to a tight end room. And it was kind of, going into this draft was looking kind of light, thinking they were going to get somebody in free agency. Eventually they signed Njoku somewhat late in the process, and now it looks like a kind of nice complementary 3-piece with Kolar, Gaston, and Njoku. You've got a young ascending player like Gaston, and then you got a player like Kolar who feels like, we talked about when they signed him, like just kind of scratching the surface of his potential. To add a veteran like Njoku to that group, it just feels like the perfect fit for this tight end room. Then you start to move on to some of these UDFAs. The first one is Svoboda. He was a former quarterback. He's literally now making the transition to tight end. He's 6'5", 250. Really good athletic testing. So there's a possibility there for a kind of transition, but he is practice squad at best. The learning curve of learning a new position is one thing, but then learning a whole new position in the NFL in training camp, in your first NFL training camp, feels like a real steep hill to climb for a guy like that. Next is Jaron Bradley, another guy who moved positions. He was a wide receiver, and now he's a tight end. He exploded as a freshman at Texas Tech in 22, and then slowly just kind of plateaued. He showed some promise in the red zone, but the move to tight end never really kind of panned out. So they're kind of banking on maybe tapping into some of that highlight tapes they saw in 22. Maybe there's something there, but again, another guy who's practice squad at best. And then Johnny Pascuzzi was a guy they signed at the rookie tryout with the Chargers, a former Iowa and Tulane product, got very little run in college. And it's interesting that they even brought him in. Not even a guy like his tape is, his highlights are like 15 seconds long. It's just a bunch of blocking. And that was really it. Not really used as a pass catcher. So they brought in another blocking tight end. Again, that's 3 UDFAs that just don't feel like they're close to making the roster. They kind of are all far behind in terms of their production and their development. And so far, it just kind of feels like it's a pretty tight group. Like, we know who the 2 tight ends are going to be. We know who the 3 running backs are going to be. We know who the 3 tight ends are going to be here. So, and we know who the fullback is going to be. So right now, so far, it feels like there's not a lot of open spots in this roster heading into camp so far.
No, and I mean, instead of even going through, because you covered it off, the one of the UDFA guys that I would say maybe has a shot at sticking on practice squad that I'd be interested in is Bradley, because like you mentioned, he put up some pretty nice plays a few years back during his college days that probably made them take notice, and then they are more than likely looking at him similarly to the Aronde Gaston situation, where you go from the wide receiver to tight end, so you have that skill set. They're probably looking at like a variation of that they feel like they can cultivate potentially. But let's be honest here. As far as the excitement, it comes from the fact that the Chargers have not had a tight end room like this, like ever, like across the board. The amount of talent and depth here, and being able to add David Njoku, that's more than just a cherry on top. That creates an entire different element to your offense now, where Gadsden is more of your split wide. Njoku can do a little bit of both in line. You can split him out as well. You can get both of them on the field at the same time. And lightning round favorite, Charlie Kolar, when no one was talking about him, if you've been around here long enough, you know how long we've pumped this guy up, because everyone only knows him for being a blocking tight end in Baltimore. It's because that's all they asked him to do. And he didn't see the field a ton. But if you watch Baltimore play, he was open more often than not. They just didn't feed him the pill. And when you go back to the Iowa State days, the reason why we fell in love with him there is because he was a primary receiving threat. And so now you get the best variation of him as a Charger, because he comes into the league. He's primarily been a blocker for the majority of his NFL career. He didn't lose his receiving chops. He just wasn't allowed to do it. And Baltimore isn't really a fling it all over the yard type offense. But now you bring him to the Chargers, and he's probably going to get some burn, not just in line, but I could see them utilizing him out of the backfield, kind of like an H-back a little bit, maybe plays a little bit of fullback, because again, the guy can block. And if you ever need to get into some really interesting sets, of course, you can line up in 13, even in 22, if you want to put him in the backfield as a fullback and sneak him out into a route, as opposed to having him be a lead blocker. The difference is that there's no tell when he's in the game. Now that he's with the Chargers, it doesn't necessarily mean that when you see Charlie Kolar, it's automatically going to be a play where he's blocking or it's going to be a running play. You're going to be conditioned to think that because you scouted him somewhere else and you think that that's how they're going to use him. That's not the case. He's probably going to be a stellar weapon, specifically in the red zone. And when they run 13, it's going to be a problem, because any one of those guys can be a threat in the receiving game. And at least two of them you go from a very good blocker in Charlie Kolar, a serviceable in Njoku. Gaston is an effort guy. He probably won't ever be great at it, but there's so many different looks that they can throw at you with just those three guys that it's an offense all into itself. That's before you even talk about any of the wide receivers. So again, what they've done collectively here is create another element to the offense that teams are going to have a very difficult time matching up with, because there aren't a ton of teams that have great secondaries, but also great linebackers at the second level who can defend tight ends as well. So you're going to have to pick your poison. And I think I might be more excited about the tight end group than I am the wide receivers, which is saying a ton.
Yeah. No, it's pretty exciting. It is a rounded out group that we're not very used to. And I would say going into the draft, we didn't have a lot of high hopes. And then coming out of the draft, I'm not sure we did either, but they found a way. Somehow found a way. So let's move on. You're speaking of wide receivers. Let's touch on them. There's 12 names here, Craig. I don't know if you want to touch on all of them. I watched all of them, but if you touch on who you want to. Chad McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, the rookie Brennan Thompson, Keandre Lambert Smith, Darius Davis, DeLavion, is that how you pronounce it?
Campbell?
DeLavon. Okay, DeLavon Campbell, Luke Grimm, Jaquay Jackson, Sincere Brown, Manti Morrow, and Devontae Ross.
Okay.
Or Devontae Ross.
I'm going to give you a pass because you called Lad Chad. I know
it's
been a while. Yeah, it's been a while, but it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. We're knocking the rust off. I know what you meant.
Oh, no.
Of this group, okay,
Chad
So,
McConkey?
you called him Chad.
Golly.
It's all good.
That's terrible. No way.
From now on,
my gosh.
no, from now on, he's Chad. I'm
Oh,
sorry, you did it to yourself. I was gonna let you go, but now since you're harping on it, from now on, he's Chad.
He's the Chad. Oh my gosh. Okay.
God. Where's my guy? I lost my train of thought. Where's my guy that was the wide receiver that came from Colorado that I wanted to focus on a little bit?
Our son, Sincere Brown.
Sincere Brown. So of the group, because listen, again, we know who the top guys are going to be. And when we're talking potential practice squad guys, Delavon Campbell stuck around for a bit. So he's probably going to be on the radar again. Again, he caught a TD today. So kind of sort of picking up where he left off, because in camp, that name comes up a ton. He's fast. He's tall. It makes sense from a vertical standpoint, what he would mean to this offense, someone that Herbert can uncork the pill to down the field. So staying there. But again, when we're talking any other options, give me my guy's name again. I'm having a weird brain fart.
It's okay. Sincere Brown?
Sincere Brown. Mm-hmm. So, and it's weird because I want to talk about him. I keep forgetting his name. But Sincere Brown was someone who caught my attention while at Colorado, because he's another one of those bigger vertical wide receiver threats that can really run. The hands are a little iffy, but he's definitely got something there that they can get some consistency out of him. He's someone that will probably show off a lot in the preseason. He's going to be one of those names you're going to see him catch a bomb, 2 or 3 of them, or he'll be in position where he gets downfield, he gets beyond someone, and maybe a quarterback overthrows him, but he's open because he creates that separation with downfield speed. He's someone that I squarely going to have my eyes open during the preseason, and a guy that I think that can make the practice squad. We all know who your top guys are going to be. Chad, QJ, Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, and Brennan Thompson. Now, when we come down to quote unquote camp battles, which there's really not a camp battle between Quentin Johnston and Trey Harris. What I'm curious about is, as we get into camp, into preseason, into the regular season, how many snaps of QJs does Trey Harris eat into? Because Trey Harris has showed up to camp, and apparently he's significantly bigger. Talking about, like, I think anywhere from like 8 to 10 pounds of muscle that he put on. He was already a physical guy. He was someone who could win vertically. We saw the fantastic catches that he made in limited opportunities that he had. He's a chain mover. Again, he can win vertically. He can be pressed. Decent route runner. I'm curious to see what his role is going to be versus what they asked Quentin Johnston to do. I'm imagining that QJ won't be playing as much traditional X as he has in the past. He's going to be more of a move guy that they get the ball to in short areas and allow him to do what he does best, that is run after the catch. They'll probably ask him again to get downfield vertically a time or two as well. I get all that. But again, who's going to vie for Justin Herbert's trust? And by the time we're talking mid-season, who's more of the go-to guy? That's what I'm curious to see as the season goes along. Beside that, or behind it, KLS versus Brennan Thompson. That is going to be probably the battle I look at the most, because it might be one of the most overlooked camp competitions. Like, KLS flashed during last offseason in camp, made some pretty big plays, disappeared mostly during the regular season. He did have a TD catch. Mm-hmm. He dealt with some injuries, was inactive a few times, but Sanjay Law was in love with this dude. And he was what Brennan Thompson is for Mike McDaniel in this year's draft is what KLS was for him the year prior. So who's going to win that battle? Because they're 2 very different wide receivers, though they're both extremely explosive. And, you know, Brennan running his 4.26, Lambert's 4.3 guy, again, extremely explosive, 4.2, 4.3, splitting hairs a little bit there. But I think Thompson gives you a little bit more. He offers a little bit more as a wide receiver from an explosive standpoint in my eyes. KLS is definitely a fast receiver, but he doesn't have like the same I want to say he doesn't bring the same excitement when he gets his hands on the ball as Brendan
Mhm.
Thompson does, because when Brendan Thompson hits the ball, if there's any separation whatsoever, he's done. Like, you're done. You're not
Yeah.
catching him in the open field
Mhm.
whatsoever. Fastest guy at the combine, and that 4.2 shows up on field the same way that it does when he runs that 40 time, and he gets to top speed in a hurry. If you get him in a motion heavy offense, it's going to create fits for defenses. Because imagine, it's similar to, think about like Steph Curry, right? Running around a whole bunch of screens, guys just get worn out chasing him because he's smaller, he's quick, he's agile. And by the time you get near him, it's already done. He's sinking it from, like, 40 feet out. There's nothing you can do about it. Thompson brings that same type of mentality to the football field. So he's also going to be someone that I think creates a lot of havoc. And Mike McDaniel can't wait to get his hands on him in every way possible to get him on the field, orbit motions, jet sweeps. However, I think he'll be better and offer more than KLS will. So again, and he only returned like one punt during his college career, but it was like 40 plus yards. So he can do that. Smaller guy. So that's, the Achilles heel is going to be the size. So that's probably the matchup in the wide receiver room that I'm looking forward to the most. But Sincere Brown, as far as like guys on the end of the roster in the wide receiver room, are the most intriguing to me. But that KLS Brendan Thompson matchup is going to be something to definitely take note of here over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's going overlooked because they're both basically guaranteed to make the roster as QB 4 and 5, or wide receiver 4 and 5. But it is interesting to see who was going to be that wide receiver 4 and who is going to be that wide receiver 5. Brendan Thompson made a pretty acrobatic catch today. So obviously already putting his print on camp already. So it will be interesting to see both of them. And it's fun because we're talking about starters now. We're not talking about guys that are going to be the 52nd, 53rd guys on the roster. We're talking about actual guys that should be contributed right away and see who's going to be the next man up, who's going to be, that fourth or fifth wide receiver coming into the game. Now, what about, we haven't touched on it yet, but I mean, we're kind of getting towards the end of our rope here with Darius Davis.
Ooh. So
because they're probably
really
keeping 6 wide receivers, right? So 5 we mentioned are locked in.
Yeah. So Darius, we know who he is as far as being a return guy, specifically on punt, kick returns, not so much. He hasn't been himself. Well, I mean, last year he dealt with injuries, so we didn't even get the return element from him that we had become accustomed to. I think he sticks it out because of his ability as a punt returner. Like, you don't get guys like that can be game breakers in the third phase of the game and just let them walk for nothing. I would imagine that he retains his role. No one else has shown that they can do what he can at this point. KLS did play some special teams last year, but he's not ideal as a return man, specifically as a punt returner. I think he makes a better kick returner than he is a punt returner. There is a skill set that you have to have as a punt returner that is a little bit different than like your typical kickoff return man. So that could be his saving grace. Now, there was that push to try to make him a part of the offense, but again, that was kind of out of necessity because they needed a field stretcher. You don't have that problem anymore.
Right.
You've got 2 ahead of him that can do that and do it very, very well. I mean, aside from just your regulatory, like 1 and 2 guys, like we haven't even talked about that, but he has a different role. We know they try to do it with QJ, and he showed that he can do it a bit. Not necessarily in contested situations. That's not where he shines, but he can win vertically. When you're just talking about guys who can just take the top off, you've got at least 2 of them. So now you don't have to force feed Darius Davis into that role. So he'd be your primary punt returner. He does offer that. So yeah, but just don't expect very much from the offensive side of things, which you shouldn't have been initially. We were just hoping for the best there.
Right. Yeah. It's like punt returner, and then that's really it, unless he can contribute anything else in special teams, but he won't because he's pretty small. So because we know the 5 of Ladd and QJ, Trey Harris, Brennan Thompson, KLS. We throw Darius Davis in there as the 6th, the 6th wide receiver. And then from there, Campbell had was kind of the training camp darling last season. I mean, he could make the 53 if they wanted to get rid of Darius Davis. They'd have to figure out something for punt return, but probably more likely as a practice squad guy like they did last season. Jaquay Jackson was a guy who was a practice squad stash as well. Probably has an inside track there. And Luke Grimm feels like a guy who's been in camp for 12 years. I don't know. You were talking about a gnat. He grows on things. All of a sudden it's camp time and Luke Grimm is somehow there. I don't know how.
It's fungal.
He's fungal. That's exactly right. He is just a camp body at this point. So I don't see much out of that. But Sincere Brown, a nice speedster, ran a 4.38 at his pro day. Really nice big frame too. 6'5", has enough production to kind of earn him a camp spot. I imagine Sincere Brown's going to be a name we're going to hear a lot because when you get those big speedster UDFA guys into camp, they always produce a lot of clips. Just running a straight line, getting that go route, running by a future car salesman and getting that TD in camp. And you'll see those clips all over the place. And people are going to be pounding the table for Sincere Brown for a 53 spot. And then they won't give it to him and then he'll land on the practice squad. But he's a guy that just feels like he's going to get a lot of run. You're going to see his name a lot. He's going to make plays. We'll see how it works out in preseason. But that does feel like an interesting name, especially in camp. Devontae Ross, he's a smaller utility player. Was at Troy, transferred to Penn State. They played Ross as a wideout, but they like to get the ball in his hands. So he's kind of more of a gadget guy. He got some touches in the backfield. Really good hands, has some returner experience as well. Not really a burner, but he's shifty enough to gain some positive yards. So he's a guy that, if he can get some run at returner, might be able to garner enough interest as a practice squad candidate. But there's nothing really here to warrant a 53 spot there for Ross. And then Manti Morrow is a kid that broke a lot of records at a college called Upper Iowa. That sounds absolutely made up. Any college that I've never heard of that sounds like just two words together, I don't believe exists. So he says he's measured at 6'4", 210, so pretty good size, but not a guy I'm going to even look into because I don't think he's a real thing.
It's like
also
the creative school feature on like college football,
right?
PS5.
Upper Iowa.
Is there a lower Iowa?
I was just going to say, I'd rather take the kid from lower. But the chat's got you set up. They said they're going to clip that Chad to Lad. So you'll have that soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. You always looking out. We always do something clip worthy. So
and we're knocking the rust off. I can't believe I called that Chad. That is unbelievable. Of all the people and all the things to mess up.
If we ever get that interview, you're cooked.
The Chad. Definitely oh my God. All right. So moving on, we're going to the big group. It is offensive line. We have Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt. It's 14, by the way. Tyler Biotish, Cole Strange, Jake Slaughter, Coyote Awasika, Trey Pipkins. I practice that all day. Trevor Penning, Travis Burke, Logan Taylor, Branson Taylor, Kosh Coltenberger, Isaiah World, Jacob Spalmer, Alex Harkey, and Lakin Vakali.
Valhalla.
Valhalla.
Lakin. I know Valhalla. That's wrong, man. It's just what it looks like. I know it's wrong. Valhalla.
Vakali. Well, anyway.
Yeah. Vakali.
So, yeah, I don't know. But so we know Slater, Alt, 100% healthy, back at camp. Beautiful thing to see. Things you love to see. We know the free agent acquisition. Tyler Biotish is your starting center. Cole Strange is starting at right guard right now. We've got Coyote Awasika starting at left guard, rotating in with Jake Slaughter. Slaughter's also the backup center. You got Trey Pipkins, Trevor Penning, who are back to provide depth, I think, and probably have a leg up at camp, maybe. But I wouldn't say it's written in stone. We got rookie 4th round pick Travis Burke. Obviously, will provide some depth. He looked absolutely giant standing next to Khalil Mack today in those clips online.
Weird.
It was crazy to see. But it feels like keeping Pipkins and Penning and Burke feels somewhat redundant when you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised to only see 2 of those 3 make the roster. I know that they traded for Trevor Penning, and I know that they re-signed Pipkins. Travis Burke's going to make it, but it just feels like, really? I mean, do they really need that converted tackle guard redundancy when they can find a guy like Logan Taylor, who's one of my more favorite picks of this last class? It gave me that like same kind of excitement that when the Chargers drafted Jamari Salyer. Like, I'm not saying like I'm jumping on the tables like Derwin James type excitement, but like this is a late round addition that's going to outperform his draft spot.
Yeah.
6th round pick, quietly going to be a staple on the depth chart, I feel, and has some real stiff competition. But some of that competition is that tackle guard combo guys like Penning and Pipkins, and it just feels like, you can go with your natural younger guard of the future as depth rather than some of these old run-of-the-mill Penning Pipkins. And I know you can never have too many offensive linemen, but at some point you'd like to upgrade that spot.
Well, right. And especially if you're the Chargers, you can absolutely never have enough offensive linemen. Like, get as many as you can all the time. Just have them waiting on standby just in case. But what they've created is a very, I think, advantageous situation for themselves to where they could potentially be sellers with at least 1 or 2 of these dudes. Specifically, Trey Pipkins, I'm looking at you, Chief. We've wanted you gone for a while, and we really thought this offseason was going to be when it happened, but no, you stuck around.
Thought?
Yeah. You stuck around. Thought? Yeah. We thought. Yeah. You stuck around, man. You really, you pulled a fast one on us, man. You made it happen for yourself. And you know what? Good on you. But I can't help but notice that teams around the league seem to be dealing with injuries already. And there's one team specifically out in Carolina that lost a lineman, and they could really use your services. So I wouldn't be surprised. The only reason why I feel like it makes sense potentially, and I know this isn't a Pipkins trade pod, but since we're talking offensive linemen, the fact that they have so many, you look at the fact that they bought in Travis Burke, who they could utilize as a swing tackle of the future. They're going to develop him to play that role. Let's also not forget there's someone else that they took that is on the shelf for a year in Isaiah World, who they're going to allow to rehab, and he could potentially be in the mix to be one of your tackles of the future, at least a backup specifically. Trevor Penning, yeah, we get it. He has the flexibility to play guard and tackle, but he's going to be a backup guard. And as far as the rest of these guys, like you mentioned, Logan Taylor, I know that's your dude, and I called him Mr. Steal Your Spot because I honestly feel like once he gets on the field, if he's given an opportunity, he's not going to relinquish it. Somebody's going to get Wally pipped. And sorry, but I mean, and again, this is one of those teams where specifically the reason why they don't invest as heavily on the interior with great offensive linemen is because the system doesn't call for that. You want athleticism and a guy that can just do their job on the move, attach, and hold hold a block. Just don't get blown up. Be able to attach and get a guy, get in the way for the most part. It doesn't have to even be a perfect block. Someone who can just be technically sound and get the job done. They don't have to be fantastic. And they have a few of those on this roster now on the interior, which makes some of these guys who might be getting paid too much to not do a whole lot. Trey Pipkins, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you again. And it might make them expendable. Let's say Cole Strange, who has an advantage because he's played in the system, doesn't play up to snuff. Logan Taylor might be able to walk right into a role that no one expected him to actually take this season and man it very, very well. For all of us that hated him, Trevor Penning, specifically me, because I wanted him nowhere near the Chargers when it seemed like he was going to absolutely be a pick for them, and they needed a tackle at the time. He found his way onto the team via trade, and he does offer some athleticism and nasty guard play on the interior, which you want to have there, but he can move very, very well. The key here is going to be Jake Slaughter. I saw people complaining about him getting snaps at both guard and center, but he's a natural center that they're trying to work into guard. But you want to cross train him to be able to play both positions. And ultimately, if he finds his way into that starting lineup and he's playing left guard and he's your starter over right now what looks to be Coyote Awashika, then that's a win-win. You got somebody that you planned on going into camp as potentially being the starter because they have experience there. It was overtaken by someone that you really wanted to be there. So now you got what could potentially be quality depth on the interior. They've done such a good job this offseason at building out the offensive line room that they've given themselves options. And now you might be able to parlay at least one of these dudes into additional draft picks, which we know Joe Ortiz loves, as many swings at the plate as he can possibly get. So went off on a tangent there, but the starters are who they are. I think the only question at this point is who is going to be starting at left guard when the season begins. Is that going to be Jake Slaughter? Is that going to be Coyote Awashika? But you can even throw additional names like Branson Taylor into the mix that people have forgotten about that they were high on last year as well. Again, I know everybody wanted the team to go out and spend a ton of cash on interior offensive linemen and get the best guards money could buy. But what you have now is, again, guys that have athleticism that can step in and play the roles on the interior that don't get a lot of attention unless they're doing the wrong thing. And they can just handle their business. But you got the biggest piece of the puzzle in Tyler Biadasz at center. So you can work around that. I'm sorry, man. I just can't get over. I can't get past like this Trey Pipkins thing. I think it might be. I think he may not be long for the team, to be completely honest with you. If he gets traded, I will not be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just feels like Trey Pipkins, Trevor Penning. When you add Travis Burke to the mix, who is obviously part of the future when you draft him in the 4th round, it just feels like it's redundant, and you don't really need both of those guys there, especially when you go out and draft Logan Taylor. You mentioned Branson Taylor. There's other guards on the roster that, that are natural guards and aren't guys that are really having problems transitioning inside. So I would not be surprised to have one of them not here when the season starts, for sure. Branson Taylor is an interesting case during this training camp because he goes from a 6th round pick last year to not even making the 53, falling to the practice squad. And then the O-line gets pelted with injuries. And rather than moving Taylor into the starting roster, they go out and trade for Trevor Penning. And, granted, I mean, it's not uncommon for like a late day 3 guard to not be ready. But with all these new additions, Branson kind of feels like he might have a pretty short leash than you'd expect for a guy who was just drafted last season. They've got high hopes for all these guys. I mean, for Cole Strange, for Awasika, for Slaughter, for Biadasz, and then Branson Taylor, and Logan Taylor. It just feels like Branson Taylor then becomes kind of the odd man out. And, where does he fit if they couldn't depend on him when they really needed him last season? It's going to be interesting to see where he fits now. I mean, probably feels like he's probably headed towards the practice squad again. If he's not quite ready for the 53, but he's got to start making some kind of noise because it just feels like they keep adding more offensive linemen and he just keeps getting pushed further and further down that depth chart.
I mean, especially if you're talking left guard, because right now it's Awasika, Slaughter, Penning, and then Branson Taylor.
Yeah. Who knows? And then you kind of move down the depth chart. Josh Kaltenberger, he's the team's 3rd center right now working. Another guy they've stashed on the practice squad. He's not slated to be any center for the future. So they drafted Slaughter if they really had to go to, somebody in a pinch. So just feels like Kaltenberger's kind of gotten cut off there at the pass and is probably another practice squad guy. You mentioned Isaiah World. He was kind of the one of the big UDFA names when they released the list after the draft. A dude who was absolutely built out of a lab to be an NFL tackle with lots of length, strong hands, pretty good mover in space. Felt like the more I watched him, the fundamentals kind of were inconsistent snap to snap. The Chargers mentioned how This year with the injury, it's kind of going to be a redshirt year. And they had mentioned that they're going to break him down and kind of rebuild the whole toolbox. So it feels like if you've got the specimen almost, in a lack of a better word, a guy who's built to be an NFL tackle with the frame and the length, and the athleticism and the strong hands, that if you can improve on those fundamentals with a year that you know that he's not going to be playing football, feels like a pretty good asset to have, and the perfect kind of stash in the practice squad, and kind of seems like the way they're going to end up going with World. Another UDFA, Alex Harkey. He was a tackle at Oregon. He had some size concerns, so they're probably going to push him inside. Played with some pretty good play strength, fairly athletic. Kind of hope some of the technique issues kind of correct themselves with the move inside, but another guy that maybe vies for a practice squad spot. And then the last one, Jacob Spalmer, played left tackle to start his college career at Fresno State. Then they moved him to center. Moves pretty well for his size on the outside, but is looking as like the fourth center on the depth chart now. And I mean, unless he can cross train as a guard and get some reps in, I mean, he's just a huge long shot to even make the practice squad at this point. There's just too many bodies ahead of him, and he's a Fresno State guy, so obviously a lot of hate for him and for D-Steps, so no way he makes the roster.
Sorry, Steps.
Yep. Always hating on them. Fresno State guys. But yeah, so what do you think about, because Isaiah World's kind of an interesting case.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the way they're approaching this?
It feels like a team that's, to me, it's a quality depth situation. Like Isaiah World would not have been available if it wasn't for the injury. So they feel like they pulled off a coup there and getting him on the roster. If we're talking about somebody like that you're, again, put it on the shelf for a year while he recovers and he becomes a backup tackle, and you're talking about a combination moving forward of a 4-man tackle, I'm going to call it rotation, but depth. Mm-hmm. That includes Rashawn Slater, Isaiah World, Joe Alt, and Travis Burke. I think you're in pretty good hands going mm-hmm. forward. So we know that the tackles are the most important spots. I'm not saying in general on the offensive line. We know they are very, very important at a premium position on the offensive line, but specifically in this offense, they rely very, very heavily on their tackles. So I think they're doing what they can to ensure that they have quality players on the perimeter there, and on the interior, they're making hay at the guard spot. So you want to have a really, really good center, 2 quality tackles, and it feels like that's the direction that they're moving in. Because even when you look at Jake Slaughter, again, being a natural center, if for some reason, this is Biadish's only year, if he falls off of a cliff or something like that, and you have to put in Slaughter, then you feel like you got one of the best centers in the draft class. So you just continue on. So you can tell where the points of emphasis are on this offensive line and what they value by the type of players that they're plugging into these spots. When you look at guard, a little different. Like if you can get Jake Slaughter to play guard, cool. But again, right now that's an experiment. But look behind that. Trevor Penning, Cole Strange, come on. Logan Taylor, I know that's a guy that you're high on. I understand why. I think he could potentially be at least, again, a serviceable guard, but you're not looking to get the same types of players on the interior, specifically at the guard spots, as you are at tackle in that center. So collectively, I see the vision here, and I'm not saying that they're tipping their hand. They're just being true to what they believe works best in their system, and it shows in the depth chart that they're building out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate the process with Isaiah World, being able to get him, snatch him for when they could, and then just saying, hey, we're going to invest in you, and, kind of show that they care, and they're going to really try to get something out of him. When, who knows what other teams would have done, but being able to stash him and then be able to kind of tell him that they're going to work on him and try to get him up to snuff is kind of nice. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to defense, Craig. We'll, since we're already interior, we'll go D-line, and we'll talk about these 10. It is an Isaiah World, product of Lincoln High School in San Diego. That was I didn't know that. I didn't know he was a San Diego kid. Good job, chat. Interior defensive line, T.R. Tart, Dalvin Tomlinson, Jamari Caldwell, Justin Aboigbe, Scott Matlock, Nick Barrett, T. Raw Edwards, Jameer Carter, Jacobian Guillory and Terry Webb. Hopefully at some point very soon, 11th Vita Vea will be there soon.
God, bring me Vita Vea.
But for now, these 10, how are you feeling about this D-line rotation?
So again, Vita Vea excluded, notwithstanding. I was okay with the defensive line going into the year, just because, again, we're talking about, it's not just names, but everyone's serving a purpose and what they do well, being able to do that now. And I felt like Dalvin Tomlinson being added to the mix was really going to help T.R. Tart, because what this team's lacked is a true interior disruptor. And Tart's shown that he can do that. He was leaned on a little bit more heavily to play against the run because they didn't really have that true nose tackle. Like, I think we felt like Jamari Caldwell could be that guy because he can do a little bit of both. Like, running joke was, when they drafted Jamari Caldwell, we went back and saw that the dude was actually playing like edge rusher at times when he was back at Houston. Like, he put on weight. He got to Oregon. He was more of your nose, and he, was kind of, it's a thankless job when you're playing nose tackle. You're basically just eating up space and allowing your guys at the second level to roam free. But now it feels like there's a nice mix there. And again, Dalvin Tomlinson hasn't been what he once was, but I feel like there could be a reemergence here. You get to LA, maybe you have the Puna Ford effect takes place, and you have a resurgence in your career, because I feel like he can still be a guy that can do the job on the interior to keep those second level dudes clean. But not only that, create those lanes and opportunities, even on twists and stunts for guys like T.R. Tart, even Jamari Caldwell, Justin Boygby, continuing us into his career. That's a really nice rotation to me. Provided these guys stay healthy, I think they're still going to be very solid against the run. There's that element of consistent pass rush that is probably still going to be lacking, that they won't be able to get with just one-on-ones, even though I do feel like T.R. Tart is going to take a very big step forward in that regard, because he won't be relied upon to be someone who's essentially, two-gapping. I don't think – I don't necessarily think that he's going to be a primary pass rusher, but I do feel like he's going to get more of an opportunity to do it, and he's going to have better opportunities to get after the quarterback because of Dalvin Tomlinson playing next to him. I'm pausing here because I can't stop thinking about Vita freaking Vea is driving me nuts. I'm thinking about the possibilities, because even a guy like Justin Boygby, I know that he took a step forward last year, but a lot of that, you got some coverage sacks, a guy that wins with a lot of effort, still not necessarily a natural pass rusher on the interior, but collectively, even the guys behind him, like Nick Barrett, it's another guy that flashed in his college career as well, more of a run defender that showed a little bit of something as far as the pass rusher is concerned. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of potential with these players. Some is unrealized potential to this point. What they're going to be good at is stopping the run. I just need them to get better at interior pressure and being able to create that without having to be fancy. I need guys that can win these one-on-ones to get after the quarterback. And of this group, T.R. Tart's probably the best at that. Mm-hmm. So the original question was how I feel. Like, I feel decent about them, again, with regard to them being able to stop the run. Getting after the QB, and they'll be okay. They'll probably do more blitzing because that's O'Leary's style. He's more of a blitzing defensive coordinator, so you'll probably see some more of that mixed in. But it can get better, and it can get a lot better if there's one guy that you decide to go after here that you have every opportunity to. So just do that so I can get this off of my mind and I can think clearly.
And I think to that point, you have – so their recipe was kind of like get these successful D linemen who were kind of towards the end of taking a dip in the end of their career when teams were ready to kind of, sell low on them, pick them up, and then start drafting these other trait guys behind them, and then start mixing and matching. And they did it with Puna Ford. They've done it with T.R. Tart. They're about to do it with Dalvin Tomlinson. They draft a Boygby, and they draft Caldwell. This season, they drafted Barrett. I mean, there's a recipe for building this defensive line. But the one thing that could be lacking, and the one thing we haven't really mentioned about it, is that Jesse Minter is no longer the defensive coordinator.
Mhm.
And so we don't quite know how O'Leary is going to be as the DC and how successful the defense will be under O'Leary. The one way to mask that is to sign the human mismatch, and that's Vita Vea. He will cover all mistakes on the defensive line, on the back end. He is the one difference maker that can propel your defense and your roster with a single signing. And there aren't very many players like that can do that. And when you have a chance to sign them, you absolutely do it. So yes, Vita Vea for sure. And on top of that, we don't know how good. Yes, on paper, this defense looks pretty good. They're a lot like what they were last year, and they were a pretty successful defense last year. But that was under Jesse Minter. How successful are they going to be with Chris O'Leary? If you have any inkling of hesitancy on this defense, why not bring in the human mismatch, Vita Vea, a human wrecking ball? It just would be perfect for this defense. But for now, we're moving past it, and we've got a starting defensive line of T.R. Tart, and then you've got an emerging rookie from last year, Jamari Caldwell, the veteran Dalvin Tomlinson, who is looking to revive his career as well. There'll be your kind of three-man front, a Boyd B, who flashed a little bit last year, and then you've got your fifth-round pick Nick Barrett as rotational guys. After that, it feels like it gets a little dicey. You've got Scott Matlock, who is like the veteran of the group, but I mean, he hasn't got a ton of reps as defensive lineman.
He's been a fullback.
So I don't know what to even expect from him. T-Raw Edwards, I mean, he made like every snap count last preseason, which earned him a spot on the practice squad. He'll kind of need to usurp Matlock to make the 53, but he's probably a pretty good bet at practice squad. Jameer Carter, I mean, watching him to bored me. I mean, he was like a 6-year run stuffer Virginia. He had like little upside. Jacobian Guillory, I don't know, LSU product. He's strong. You'll appreciate this. He was a 2-time powerlifting state champion, also a shot put state champion. So you can imagine he's pretty strong at the point of attack. But he early on in his career tore his Achilles, was a rotational guy, put a nice 2025 season together, started all 13 games at defensive tackle. Feels like a potential kind of dart throw with potential on the practice squad. But then you got Terry Webb, who is more of a finesse pass rusher from the inside, kind of lacks strength. I don't know that he'll hold up long-term inside. He flashed getting after the quarterback. If he can add some muscle, maybe. But again, another dart throw there. I don't know. After Tart and Tomlinson, Caldwell, Aboigbe, and Barrett, you're 5. I don't know. There'd be a perfect 6th, but right now, I mean, you've just got Matlock kind of just hanging around, and I don't love the proposition of that.
The funny thing here is I'm thinking about it, and this is probably when you look at this defensive line and the current, the potential roster when we get to 53. Right now, it feels like they're counting on Mike Elston to continue to work his magic, specifically with Dalvin Tomlinson, because like we mentioned before, it's the same thing with Poona Ford, same thing with T.R. Tart. They got here, they get under Elston, and then suddenly things are revived. So I think they're hoping the same thing for Tomlinson, that he can be the player of old. Caldwell flashed a bit. So they're thinking the development is going to continue to take place here. And I understand that. You want to lean on your coaching, as you should. But when you have an opportunity to go get a player like Vita Vea to add into the mix, then that kind of speeds up your progression for everyone else. And it takes a lot off of their plates as well. So like I said before, you get not just an above average player, you still get a very, very good he's still an elite nose tackle in the NFL. You can get him to man the interior defensive line. Hell, you can even put him and Dalvin Tomlinson on the field at the same time in certain looks. That's going to create opportunities for guys like T.R. Tart and Jamari Caldwell. Justin Aboigbe is going to get additional looks because you're talking about one-on-one opportunities where he can use that strength. He put on some additional weight and some muscle last year. I'm sure he did some more of the same this offseason and continued to improve in his technique. So collectively, and I said this backwards earlier, it only hit me while I was listening to you, but Tier Tart, last year, he was asked to do, I said it backwards, he's more of a single gap player. He shouldn't be two gapping. That's not what he should be doing. He should be asked to get upfield and single gap and get after the QB. Dalvin Tomlinson can two gap. Vita Vea can two gap. You can get those guys to be in there to free up everyone else and have those opportunities to get after the QB. And you can create more interior pressure that way, because again, that's what QBs hate the most. They can step up around edge pressure. What they don't want is to have their center or a guard pushed into their laps and having to escape the pocket. That's the last thing that they want. So, yes, love Elston and what he's done with this group. But you can make his life a lot easier and the rest of the players that surround them by getting someone who lives and breathes destroying the interior of offensive line.
Yep. All right. Moving on. So obviously everybody knows how we feel about Vita Vea. Moving on to edge. It is 7 names. It's Khalil Mack, Thule, Akeem Mesidor, Bud Dupree, Kyle Kennard, Nnamdi Tucker, and Garmin Randolph. So, it's going to be a 3-man rotation early on with Mack, Thule, and the rookie first-round pick, Akeem Mesidor, who did pretty good today in camp. Thule working off to the side. Little concerning because there's a contract coming up, and Harbaugh said everybody was 100% cleared, and Thule was working off the side. So I don't want to speculate, but obviously you got to get that deal done because he deserves it. Then after that, I mean, again, it just gets ugly. Like the end of that D-line group, this group gets ugly fast. Bud Dupree, he was on his last legs last season, so I don't know what that means this season. Like it felt like he should have hung it up like halfway through the year last year, but here we are. Kyle Kennard is on the roster basically because of where he was picked. He looked almost too slow and skinny to be an NFL pass rusher last year. Maybe year 2, things can improve. Nnamdi Tucker is an exciting name of the UDFA class. Him and Isaiah World were kind of like the headliners. One, because the Chargers knew DC Chris O'Leary unlocked Nnamdi Tucker last year at Western Michigan. He led the FBS in sacks, earning MAC Defensive Player of the Year honors, racked up 14.5 sacks, 21 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles. The thing holding him down was kind of the age and the size, but he's a good bet to be locked in the practice squad and has a real chance to kind of battle for that edge 4 with Bud Dupree here in camp, and I hope he wins that job. The last guy, Garmin Randolph, a really lengthy defender. He's 6'8", 260. He's got the go-go gadget arms and really has a nice ability to convert that speed to power. Was kind of hot and cold in terms of production, but kind of a guy maybe you want to bet on in size. You did that with Isaiah World, or at least they're going to with Isaiah World. Maybe one of those guys you can do the same with some untapped potential with the ideal lengthy frame in a guy like Randolph. But we know Mack, Thule, and Mesidor are locked in. Bud Dupree is edge 4 to start camp, but we're hoping that's not the case by the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, collectively here, like you mentioned, it does get dark after your top guys. But just starting from behind here, Garmin Randolph has always been a name that's intrigued me. He was a Baylor guy that I got to watch a little bit, and it's always been a leverage game with him. That 6'8" frame, it's really hard to be the low man, but he's got such strong upper body power that he's been able to overcome that, or he was able to, I'm not gonna say overcome it. It was still an issue in college, but when he won, like just the sheer strength that he had just to overpower offensive tackles and get them on their heels and get to the QB. So I think they probably see something there that they can continue to develop. So I wouldn't be shocked if he snuck onto the roster, just kind of based on what we're looking at from an edge perspective here, because there's so many questions. Like worst case scenario, he ends up a practice squad guy again, but let's see if he continues to ascend. I mean, I don't need to say very much about Akeem Mesidor. Y'all know how I feel about him being a Miami Hurricanes dude. I mean, I call him Wolverine because that's how he plays the game, just complete freak relentless effort, motor, just everything. The athleticism's there to get off. Like apparently he stood out. I mean, as much as you can without pads on today. But again, older prospect is what it is. But that's exactly what they needed: somebody who can step in from day one and be a difference maker. And that's what they're going to get in that rotation. They have to have at least 3 dudes. So you add him to Mac and Thule, who is looking like he's doing a hold in right now, but I feel like they'll get that worked out. You talked about Bud Dupree, man. Like, it really starts looking really weird when you're talking about Bud Dupree and Kyle Kennard behind Thule, because who can you trust there? Bud's thing was, and it's never really materialized in the NFL, Bud was always very freakishly athletic. But now the athleticism's nowhere near where it used to be. The technique never developed, though. So essentially, he's a traffic cone. Like, he can be solid against the run still, but as far as being a consistent pass rusher, he doesn't offer you very much there whatsoever. Kyle Kennard, he's never been very twitchy or athletic. Some people say that he benefited from playing against with one of the best defensive players. Can't think of the guy's name right now. Is defensive lineman or edge guy from South Carolina that was the draw, and Kennard benefited from playing opposite him. So, yeah, the dude had 0 pressures last year. I don't even know how that's possible. I don't remember how many snaps he got on the field, but I do remember that he got absolutely 0 production. So I guess there's only one way to go at this point. I mean, you can't get worse than 0. So let's hope that he takes a step forward. I mean, they made an investment in him. So they used a premium-ish pick to get him. So I would imagine that there's an opportunity for him to show improve this year. Otherwise, probably going to be looking for some other options after next year, because you're still going to have to fill out that room. Now, Na'Dame Tucker, that's the name to keep an eye on because of the connections with Chris O'Leary. So it's another guy who's going to have a leg up for understanding the scheme, and another older prospect, but someone who comes with a little bit of polish to his game. So he may be able to produce a little earlier. I would not be shocked if Tucker ends up beating out Kennard, though. I could very easily see that. And Bud Dupree, I don't know, maybe they just like the veteran leadership, but you already have that in Khalil. I get that you have to have the numbers there, and you have to have someone that you feel like is quote unquote quality depth. But if you're telling me or asking how I feel about the room right now, after the top 3, it's a huge question mark. Like, but I mean, how many teams have 3 great edge rushers?
Right.
So, being a little greedy here, but that's the benefit of this roster being built out the way that it is now, right? Because in the past, where we were looking at dudes that were UDFAs or late round draft picks and hoping that they could contribute, and any flash that they showed, we grab onto for dear life and think they'd be something, and they turn out to be nothing at all. You're talking about guys with actual names that have had production. Like Bud Dupree might not be what he was, but I mean, he's still been an effective player in the league. But when you're talking just your top 3, you feel great about Khalil Mack still. Father Time doesn't seem to be as effective against him as he is against most. He may not be Khalil Mack of old. He's not just Chicago Bears Khalil Mack, or even Khalil Mack of the Chargers from 2 years ago, but he's still top tier against the run as an edge setter. He can still get after the QB a little bit. Thule has a nice all-around game and continuing to ascend. And I think Akeem Mesidor is going to blow the roof off of SoFi as an edge rusher. So just those 3, super confident. The guys behind him, again, we'll see. But Na'Dame Tucker is probably the name, again, to keep an eye on. And the rest of the room, just don't piss the bed.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully those top 3 stay healthy all season long, and we don't have to even have a conversation about it. Moving on, linebackers. There are 8 of them, Craig. Deion Henley, Denzel Perryman Jr. Colson, Troy Dye, Delshawn Phillips, Marlo Wax, Amani Johnson, and Lander Barton. How are you feeling about this group?
I think it's a pretty easy call, unless Amani Johnson or Lander Barton develop superpowers that we're unaware of. I think those are probably going to be some guys that you talk about end up being on your practice squad again. Delshawn Phillips, special teams ace. You feel decent about him if he ends up having to get on the field. Again, you build out that depth to where when you get to names like this, you're not in a complete panic. And even a man or the man by the name of Marlo Wax is the one that I'm thinking is going to take a major step forward this year. And that means Junior Colson might be in trouble. And that hurts my heart because everyone knows I was a huge Junior Colson guy. And the injuries have just basically all but eliminated him from real contention. The thing that keeps him holding on is the fact that he's a hardball guy. So Jim's going to give him every opportunity to produce. The problem is that when Colson was semi-healthy, like in the preseason last year, he still looked terrible. And that was in a defense that he knew intimately, which I could not understand. He looked completely lost. So the battle for me in camp this year and then going into the season is going to be Marlo Wax versus Junior Colson, because I feel like this is going to be Junior's last chance to really show and prove if he's worth sticking around. Troy Dye, I think he's kind of a staple at the second level. He's someone who stepped in playing next to Deion Henley and did an admirable job. Like, you know, Denzel Perriman's another Miami guy, elder statesman. You know what it is with Denzel. He's probably going to end up missing a couple games. He's good for like missing like 3 or 4 due to some sort of injury, like some soft tissue stuff or something like that. But, you know, he's your thumper. But Troy Dye can step in and you feel relatively comfortable about what he offers you against the run and in coverage. And Deion Henley, coming off of what was a down year, but the dude had a lot going on, for being honest. I mean, he got sick, lost several pounds. He lost his brother, lots of personal issues there with that. So, I mean, I can't imagine having to play football, having to deal with all of that. I think he's due for a comeback year. So as a whole, I'm probably a little bit higher on the linebacker room than most are, because I think Deion's going to play much better. And I honestly feel like there's a chance that Marlo Wax creeps into getting significant snaps. And I'm kind of excited about it. If Junior Colson ends up holding him off, then we're all the better for it. And if he can shake off the injury bug and be the player that we saw him coming out of Michigan, then again, it's even better depth across the board with Wax behind him. But in general, I'm fine when you're talking about like the top 6 guys at linebacker. Whatever combination you want, like if you're telling me it ends up coming down to like a Del'Shawn Phillips or a Marlo Wax, we know what Phillips offers on special teams. Wax was also very good on special teams, so I'm fine with either. But again, man, I really like Marlo Wax, and I think there's going to be an opportunity for him to get some significant snaps this season.
Yeah, Wax had a really strong end of the year campaign when that group got banged up. He was great. But it kind of feels like it might be those 6. They might just end up keeping those 6. If you know Perryman's going to be injured, because we all do, and you know Del'Shawn Phillips is kind of your special teams demon, and Troy Dye is, you know, more than serviceable as a backup. It'd be nice to have another guy like a Wax and a Colson there, but Colson just feels kind of like an anomaly. Nobody knows who or what he is at this point because he's been injured. And you know, when he saw the field, it did. I mean, like you mentioned, he looked lost, and it didn't look like the football player we saw at Michigan. So I'm not sure if it's a system thing, injury thing, catching up with the speed of the NFL thing. I'm not sure, but you know, that clock is ticking, and I think he ends up making the roster. I hope to see how he competes in camp and in the preseason. But including the other 2, Amani Johnson was a practice squad player who was pretty undersized, was mostly projected as a future special teamer, but still was able to, you know, stick on the practice squad. Lander Barton was the guy I ended up watching and kind of liked watching. And, you know, the linebacker room is pretty full, and, you know, maybe they keep 5, but they feel like they're 6 deep if you add Colson in there. But a guy that's still growing in the position, has some off-ball skills. He played tight end last season too. He had 120 snaps. He was doing linebacker and tight end duty. And feels like, you know, as a guy, much like what Troy Dye is doing, can contribute in some sub packages, has some special teams contribution kind of skills immediately. I think he develops as a run defender. I think he's got desirable size. The athleticism's pretty good. again, the room's pretty full, so I don't see
Yeah.
him making the 53, but an interesting kind of practice squad stash guy, and a guy I'm kind of interested to see play in camp and preseason, because it feels like he has some of those intangibles that could be a guy that could maybe develop into a Marlowe Wax type situation of this camp. So I'm interested to see Barton. Again, pretty full room, but I'm interested to see how he does. Barton does. All right, we're wrapping up here. We've got two more groups. It's the DBs, it's the corners, and the safeties. So, Craig, let's talk about these 8 corners. Dante Jackson, Tarpees Still, Cam Hart, Dean Leonard, Nico Reed, Eric Rogers, Isis Waxter, Rodney Shelley, and Avery Smith.
Yeah. This room feels incomplete to me right now, even though if you ask the Chargers, they may feel differently.
They definitely feel differently.
Yeah. I mean, it's very clear. Like, you got Dante Jackson, which for me, guy went to LSU, so I'm very familiar with. He's a calculated playmaker, risk taker. So love that. He played, I would say, probably better than what most expected last year, but that's kind of a thing with this defense. I mean, different scheme this year, but I don't expect there to be very much of a drop off. Cam Hart, on and off play, still developing, but that bigger boundary corner that you want to be able. And I feel like hopefully he gets to play a little bit more press man in this scheme. Then they employed a lot of zone coverage the last couple of years, but I think Cam's probably better as a press man cover. Hopefully he gets an opportunity to do that. Then you're talking about guys like Tarheeb Still, who's going to alternate depending on what they're doing with Derwin at any given time, because Derwin plays primarily the star big nickel position, but Tarheeb's he's going to be a field corner, but then also he gets a little nickel work in there as well, an ascending player. So when we're talking like those 3, I feel pretty good about. Then you start getting into where the question marks come in. I was always someone who felt like Dean Leonard had an opportunity to be a pretty good player. He showed some flashes, dealt with some injuries, kind of fell off a bit. So not really sure what to expect from there going forward, not really knowing what he's going to be. But I'm not expecting very, very much. Then you're talking about names like Eric Rogers, who also flashed last year in the preseason, had a few interceptions, looked amazing, and then had an injury that basically took him out for the count for the rest of the year. Another bigger body corner that has an opportunity to maybe show what he can do. And I think the Chargers are leaning into that, and they think that maybe with some further development, Steve Klingscale, I trust him with my life. So it feels like he can turn anybody into a serviceable or above average corner. So again, while I feel like the room is probably incomplete in general, what's currently there, they probably feel like these guys can step in and be, ready to go day one. There's nothing to say that they can't. Then when you're talking about other cornerbacks, like who's my guy that I'm forgetting out of Oregon, what's my guy's name?
From Oregon?
Smaller corner out of Oregon, also flashed.
Nico Reed?
Nico Reed. So Nico Reed is someone else who, again, somewhat diminutive in size, but another one of those guys that I think that they're depending on to make bigger strides this season. I'm fine with Nico if you're talking about him playing a slot type role, but I don't necessarily want him playing on the outside against bigger wide receivers. I just think he'd get bodied. He's got the effort, he's got the technique, decent speed, but not someone that I'm going to push all my chips in on. Benjamin St. Juste is no longer here, so there's no reason to talk about him whatsoever. But outside of that, who are some of these other names? You've got Rodney Shelley.
Avery Smith.
Miles Purchase. Miles Purchase is
more of a safety.
Yeah, Miles Purchase does play safety. I think they've tried him a little bit at corner as well, but I think he's probably best suited to play at safety. Outside of that, You said Isis Waxer. I think he had a pick at today's camp.
He
I
did,
don't even
yeah.
remember anything about Isis Waxer, to be completely honest with you. So don't have a whole lot to say about him. Maybe you have some more insight. I haven't had a chance to dig into him quite yet.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
did mention already like Eric Rogers, who I mean, I like the game. I like the length. I like his ability to be a boundary corner and play that physical brand of ball and be a playmaker as well. So overall, I don't love the corner room. It's the top three guys, and then I feel like it's still a bunch of question marks. I think there is an opportunity to add maybe at least one more vet to the mix. And I mean, they have some free agents out there. No one who's going to blow your socks off in that regard, but just the experience there. I mean, Rasul Douglas was someone who I had my eyes on, but he got signed. So you still have guys out there like Kendall Fuller, like Mike Hilton, James Bradbury, again, older guys, but have production in the league. I'm of the mind that the way that the scheme is set, and this is a little different because we're not talking about Jesse Mertz anymore, they were able to kind of mask the corner play a little bit because the safeties were primarily the playmakers in the defense, and they were the ones who had a lot on their shoulders. We'll see what changes in the O'Leary scheme, but I feel like they need to make at least one more addition. And I mean, there aren't very many teams that can say that they have a lockdown corner on their roster. The Chargers definitely don't have one of those, but let's hope the development of some of these guys, even some of the younger names, can take another step forward, because otherwise you're going to have to be really good at getting after the quarterback, which is why I said they should absolutely really sell and push in their chips on becoming more of a trench team. I'm not going to say the guy's name again because y'all are tired of hearing me say it, but it helps. Overall, the corner room, I think it's okay. It's not great. It's just okay. But I mean, you can't have everything everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we know what you have in Dante Jackson, Cam Hart, and Tarpey still. They're all, and still had an interception today as well.
Mhm.
They're the starting corners, and they were pretty solid in their roles last year. Nico Reed and Eric Rogers impressed so much in camp and preseason that they made room for him on the 53.
Yeah.
So it feels like, and leading up to an injury, Eric Rogers was on the field as a starter. He had already started to ascend to a starting role and then gets injured and then went down. It just feels like they are so high on those two guys that if you've got young corners that you feel that you have a lot of confidence in, it just feels like they're rolling with the right group. When you hit Dean Leonard was when you start to hit some question marks. I mean, he was pretty good on special teams and he'll be depth, but you could absolutely add a sixth corner vet out of cuts and feel much better about this group. Waxter was a guy I did watch. I mean, he was picked up by the Seahawks as a UDFA. He ended up getting cut. Chargers put him on their practice squad. He's a big physical corner, pretty limited athletically. And I don't see him making the roster, but made a play today in training camp. So good for him. Rodney Shelley and Avery Smith, both undersized corners. They have some versatility, but not guys that I'm looking to make the practice squad. I mean, that's their best bet, but I don't see enough there that they got to keep anybody. Waxter probably has the inside track for the practice squad, but yeah, it just feels like it's going to be Jackson, Hart, still Reed, Rogers, and Leonard as your 6 corners heading into camp and heading into your 53.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, Steve Klingscale, I'm not going to doubt anything. I'm not doubting anything. So if they're going to roll with this room and they're believing in the coaching to continue to develop guys, like, what is there to say against it? He's proven it for the last few years. And if you need any proof, Benjamin St. Juste got a new contract because
because of him,
just because he got with Steve Klingscale and he made him into what looked like a decent corner, not just serviceable. The guy played actually pretty well in his one season with the Chargers. So if he can make Benjamin St. Juste a player, then look, I mean, maybe Waxter has a chance, and again, you're talking about guys in Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart who are mid to late round draft picks that are basically starters now. and they've played up to that level. With Cam, maybe not as consistently, but he's shown that he has that in him. And Tarheeb still is basically a mainstay in the secondary. So all trust in Steve Klingscale. And again, this is wanting to have, again, that lockdown corner on the outside, on the perimeter. Everybody wants that. Is it necessarily like, it's not necessarily something you have to have. It's just, it's the cherry on top. But I think that the group will be okay because of coaching ultimately.
You made me think. It kind of feels like Klingscale is almost creating that kind of same thing that New England was doing, where like New England would build up their players, sell high on them in free agency, get those comp pickbacks, and then they'd be fool's gold for everybody else when they would get them. Like he
like
built
one
up
in particular we know
about. Like he built up Christian Fulton to look like a Pro Bowl corner, so much so that Kansas City went all in and we're like, we got to get this guy. And then all of a sudden now he's like third on the depth chart. They had to trade up to get Mansour Delane or whatever during the draft because he didn't work out. He was so bad. It just feels, and then we're going to see St. Juice fall back down to earth real easy.
Yeah, Klingscale just might be the cornerback whisperer, man.
It
must be. Yeah, so fine. Like all my hesitation and worries probably are for no reason. They'll probably be fine with the group that they have right now.
Yeah, as long as they're good here, that's all that matters. And there's a good chance that they are, because nobody was talking about those two corners in Reed and Rodgers. And then all of a sudden it's like we've got multiple pick sixes and they look like like ball hawks, and Eric Rodgers is building up to be starting corner in the NFL and then gets injured. Yeah, just believe in Klingscale and maybe we'll be okay.
And Steve, we trust.
Yep. Last group here, 8 of them. Safeties are Derwin James, Elijah Molden, Tony Jefferson, RJ Mickens, Genesis Smith, who had an interception today, I believe. Kendall Williamson, Miles Purchase, and Devin Grant. So we know Derwin Molden are going to be your starters. RJ Mickens flashed last year, will be in that DB rotation. Unk had such a strong preseason and regular season. He had to run it back another year. So he is back. Kendall Williamson made the 53 last year, contributed on special teams late in the season. Miles Purchase was kind of one of your practice squad stash guys, probably that way again. And then the UDFA Devin Grant, some ball skills, showed off at Buffalo, went quiet when he went to Syracuse, didn't really translate. Has some pass rushing ability as a DB, but I think you've got probably Molden, Derwin, Mickens, and then I think there's going to be a battle between Unk, Tony Jefferson, and Kendall Williamson for a 4th safety spot. And then, maybe you see Williamson go, if Unk gets it, then Williamson goes to the practice squad. You probably see Purchase at the practice squad as well.
Yeah. You could argue that this is the strongest position on the defense. Potentially.
Okay.
Specifically in the secondary. You don't necessarily, Derwin is a safety by name. He primarily plays nickel. He'll play a lot of in the box, certain packages. So he's not playing very much deep. He's not playing hardly. Well, I forgot what his snap output was with any deep or split work for last season. But he's going to hold down your star position there at nickel. The conversation starts to kick into high gear when you're talking about guys like in the back end, Kendall Williamson, because I feel like they really like Williamson, not for just what he provides on special teams, but the fact that he is very athletic. He's kind of a headhunter as a tackler. So I think they like his aggressiveness as well. Y'all know how I feel about RJ Mickens. He was my sleeper pick a couple years ago, and he's flashed. So there's going to be opportunity for him. But then when you add into the mix a guy like Genesis Smith, who is your rangy guy. You're talking about like deep third defense. That is ideally the type of safety that you would want to pair with guys like Elijah Molden and Derwin James, who are going to do a lot of robber work underneath. And what Genesis Smith provides you is someone who can run because he's got those really, really long strides that eat up turf. And he's got above average ball skills. We all know that tackling is a mess I think they'll get that cleaned up. He doesn't necessarily have like a 1-2 issue. It's just all technique. It's completely busted, and hopefully they get that fixed. But guys like Devin Grant and Noah Avinger, okay, potential practice squad situation there. But when you mention Unk, it's really weird with Unk, right? Because it's going to be another year. He didn't look like he fell off anything at all last year. It's like the age isn't really affecting him. But I mean, he took some time off from ball, so his body was relatively fresh. So he's still got some tread left on the tires. It's going to come down to a back of the roster, a back of the safety room battle with Unk. If you're talking about a battle between Unk and Williamson, the question then becomes, is Unk going to play special teams? Like, is Tony Jefferson going to be on kickoff coverage? Like, is he going to be on punt coverage? I don't see that happening. But for what he provided for you on field with regulatory snaps, you can't deny that he was still a playmaker. And I would value that over the youth of Kendall Williamson and what he could potentially be. And though you really like him on teams, you can still have RJ on teams as well. Genesis Smith is probably going to get some teams work as well, which makes me feel like Williamson ends up being kind of the odd man out there. So for me, of course, it's going to be Derwin. It's going to be Elijah Molden, who you can maneuver around the secondary as well, because I mean, he's a former corner. He has slot work. Like, there are a lot of positionless guys on this team that you can maneuver around, which helps them immensely. So again, Elijah, Derwin, Genesis, RJ Mickens, Tony Jefferson, and Kendall Williamson is going to be the question when you're talking about, do you want to go with the youth and potential versus the established grizzled vet and Tony Jefferson, who's proven to be a playmaker still. So I think ultimately Jefferson wins out over Williamson. I don't think it's going to be, honestly, that much of a battle.
Yeah, we'll see. They'll be competing, but yeah, I think Tony Jefferson ends up getting it anyway. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull the plug here. We're going on approaching 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
But there's your in-depth breakdown for training camp, all positions, all players. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe everywhere you need to. Come join the Discord. We are still up and running. That's always the best time, especially during the season. So make sure you join in and jump in there when you can. We will be jumping back on probably for training camp or maybe preseason. We'll see. But we're back in the swing of things. When we hear that Vita Vea news, we'll be here live very, very soon. I'm sure we'll be hearing it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Salute.